The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Welcome back to The Crow. My name is Tammy Mack, and this is your 11:30 news update. BC Conservative leader John Rustad says his party will build a new children's hospital in Surrey to equip the city to better serve its growing population. Rustad said the new facility will have a pediatric emergency room and maternity services, but does not know how much it will cost. Meanwhile, the BC NDP says Rustad's promise is an attempt to distract, noting Rustad's former party, the BC Liberals, had sold land meant for the hospital. NDP's Adrian Dix says the provincial government is already working on expanding Surrey Memorial Hospital. Ramping up to final voting day, NDP leader David Eby says it has been a generation since the province has had such stark contrast in election candidates.
I'm asking people to stick together, to think very carefully about where they place their X on that ballot. I'll, of course, respect the decision of British Columbians, regardless of what decisions they make. But I don't think we've had an election where a vote has had this kind of significance for a generation.
More in election news, calls for Conservative candidate Brent Chapman to resign have been renewed as more disturbing social media posts have come to light. In his post, Chapman cast doubt on various mass shootings in recent memory and suggested people were not actually killed. Rustad has refused to dismiss Chapman as a representative and said that Chapman has received legal counsel to not comment further on old social media posts. Over the weekend, the RCMP and government officials presented evidence to the Indian government alleging they are involved in cases of violent crime and coercion on Canadian soil. Canada expelled 6 Indian diplomats yesterday, alleging India's top diplomat is a person of interest in the 2023 assassination of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. India has rejected the accusations. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says India is undermining international rule of law.
No country, particularly not a democracy that upholds the rule of law, can accept this fundamental violation of its sovereignty. Canada fully accepts and respects the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of India. We expect India to do the same.
India has retaliated by expelling 6 Canadian diplomats as well. The Public Health Agency of Canada announced this listeria outbreak in certain plant-based milk facilities is over. Emily Joveski of the Canadian Press has more.
The federal agency says its investigation is now complete, and listeria was found within the production environment of Silk and Great Value plant-based refrigerated beverages. However, the agency says it was not able to identify the primary site of the contamination, and production will remain paused until the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is satisfied with renovations to the facility. The CFIA previously stated that the source of the illness was traced to a specific production line at a third-party facility in Pickering, Ontario. No new cases have been reported linked to the contamination since August, and the tally stands at 20 confirmed infections in Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and Alberta, and 3 deaths. Emily Joveski, The Canadian Press.
Destination Toronto has estimated the Toronto leg of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour will inject hundreds of millions of dollars into the city's economy. The tourism organization says it expects the 6 concert dates to draw in $152 million in direct spending, which could grow into a $282 million economic impact. Destination Toronto's predictions covers spending on hotels, restaurants, and retail, but does not include airfare or the concert tickets themselves. This estimate does not account for possible costs, like increased police presence for security and traffic rerouting. A new wave of lawsuits against Sean Diddy Combs sees 6 people accusing him of sexual assault. This includes 2 women and 4 men, one of which was only 16 years old at the time. All were filed anonymously. Lawyers say the new accusers are part of a group of over 100 alleged victims coming forward against Combs. Over to weather, it is currently 12 degrees with a high of 15 and a low of 10 tonight. Rain is in the forecast tonight with a chance of showers later today, so keep your umbrellas close. This has been your 10:30 update. My name is Tammy Mack, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow. This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
Welcome to Go With Grace.
Help me heal my people.
His whole family have beautiful singing voices. His sister, his brother, they're all beautiful singers. Sometimes he'll sing at some of the funerals, like here in Musqueam, and his acts will be tears coming down their face because he has a singing voice like his father, late Miles Sparrow, so his sisters are reminded of how their brother used to sing. So he has his dad's voice.
Hi, I'm your host, Grace Chen.
And I'm your host, Grace Miller. Welcome to today's episode, Following a Path of Personal Reconciliation.
Blanketing exercise all those times, and I went back to my childhood and, looked at the decisions were made under drugs and alcohol for the last 100 years. So when people were doing all that stuff, it was a dangerous place when I was growing up.
Yes.
So when we realized that even my children and grandchildren were always going to be affected by what was going on, because that connection was broken with my children.
Our journey began at the Sparrows' residence on Musqueam 2 land, where we spoke with Martin Sparrow, an elder, and his wife, Shauna Sparrow, founder of Moontide Reconciliation.
She specializes in the Kairos blanket exercise, a visually immersive experiences that places people into the history of indigenous peoples and what they went through.
So I was born in 1968, and my mother passed away in 1971. So when she passed away in 1971, I became a 60 scoop. So I became a part of the federal government to know.